Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. And this week, it's a fun one, you guys. We're going to talk about the dumb things we thought when we were kids. We for sure thought were totally facts, that were not facts.
Yes, this is somewhat based on the fact that my dad, my father's father, they lived in view of what used to be known here in New York as the Tappan Zee Bridge, now the Governor Mario Cuomo Bridge. But I'm kind of team Tappan Zee ever,
like,
Mario Cuomo never bridge.
It's like Shea Stadium, Tappan Zee Bridge, right?
Yeah.
You can
try
just
to tell my
me,
age because I'm always going to call it the Tappan Zee.
Me
The
too.
Tappan Zee. And there was a light switch on their wall that didn't work, and he would go over. He knew they turned on the bridge at, let's say, like 6:45, and he would go over at 6:45 and flip it on and say, I got to turn my bridge on. And he would flip the light. The bridge light would go on. And apparently my father went to school and told everyone that's my dad's bridge. And they were like, no, you idiot, it's not.
I have two things I thought as a kid that I carried fully into adulthood. I mean, it's not long ago that this realization came to me that the Love Boat was not actually filmed. The Love Boat, it's an old deluxe alert out of the gate. Sorry, guys, but it was a silly TV show set on a cruise ship, and they would show them setting sail, and then they would dock at the end. It was the week of the cruise was every episode.
Yeah.
And I really thought that the cast for that week boarded the ship, and like the people playing the crew on the Love Boat were the crew, and they'd set sail and they'd record, like there was a script and everything. It was, there were actors playing characters.
It wasn't a reality show.
Yeah, it wasn't a reality
really
show
happening.
But I was certain that they recorded it during the week at sea, that you got to go on a cruise.
Yeah, you were filming on the cruise.
Yes, yes. And I was like 35 before I figured out, that was all on
a soundstage. That's what was going on.
And I've been on a soundstage. It's a very strange thing for me not to have put together until adulthood, but I didn't.
That's amusing. And the Love Boat had a particular, I feel like, magical draw for us watching it because it used a lot of kids, like kids were on the boat, and
Jill, the captain's daughter, and her name was Jill, and she lived at sea.
Daughter.
No need to go to school. She was like 12.
She was, what do we say, 15, 16. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe more like 12, 13. She was young. And then,
she just got to hang out on the boat.
Yeah. I just think there weren't a ton of shows where you watch where there were like tweens on TV, and that was the one. Maybe that's crazy because there was a Brady Bunch and stuff, but something about the Love Boat, they were having exciting adventures.
Yes, it was exciting adventures. I also thought until, like, again, a grown person, that the Muppet Show was actually filmed like in a theater with like 300 people watching and clapping. They so successfully make it feel like you're watching a live show being filmed that I felt like that wasn't a laugh track, that people were there.
But you're picturing, now I have to dial down on your logic here because I think there's a problem with it. They pan to the audience and it's 300 humans, because I think sometimes they did pan to the audience. It was Muppets.
And it would be chickens or whatever.
It would be chickens.
No, but the laugh track was humans. You'd hear laughs and you'd hear reaction and you'd hear applause.
Not for nothing, Amy, but the humans did the Muppet voices. I mean, it could have still been Muppet.
Well, it was just somebody pressing a button, but it sounded like
you thought it was in a theater.
Yeah, like I really bought into the whole, like, everybody get on stage, it's time for the next number, and then in real time they ran out and did the number for people that were watching. They showed us Muppets watching because that was the I don't know, the idiom, but that there were real people there while it was happening. There should have been. I mean, there weren't, but there should have been.
I mean, there were some. There were the Muppeteers, but yeah, not an audience. Not an invited audience.
I have a friend who cried and cried when that show was not on all of a sudden one Sunday night at 7 because it hit her like a ton of bricks that she was never going to be the guest star on the Muppet Show. Like all at once. It's like,
it was like it was over and she wouldn't get her
It was
chance.
over. It wasn't coming on the TV anymore. It's like, what do you mean? Like, I will never be, Sid Charisse. I'll never be the person
on the Muppet Show.
On the Muppet Show.
This is definitely a strong lane in my brain that the kids have an expression now, big main character energy, and it's not a compliment, but I definitely watched everything with like, what is my role? Who would I be on the Love Boat? Like, how would I host the Muppet Show when I get my chance to host the Muppet Show?
What's my big number going to be?
What will my number be? Yeah, like I definitely watch everything with like, how do I fit into the scene?
Yeah. Well, all kids do. That's the egocentrism of childhood.
Yeah, I just never grew out of it. I have a problem.
This one reminded me, we went to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/whatfreshhellcast. We asked them, what were the incredibly dumb things you actually believed as a kid? We got bajillions of answers. Abby's reminded me of your dad with his dad in the Tappan Zee Bridge. Abby says, we had an old 1970s Chevy Silverado pickup truck with a metal logo plate that said Chevrolet on the inside dashboard. I thought you could honk the horn by pressing the Chevrolet on the dashboard because every time I did, my dad would actually honk the horn from the steering wheel. I loved Abby's conclusion. We lived in a small town. I'm sure everyone thought something was wrong with our car.
Why are those people always honking?
It's sweet.
I like Jill's. I have also had this thought. Thought LMNOP was one letter. Thought it was a word. Yeah, definitely.
HIJK and right.
And then LMNOP. That's a word. That's one word.
Yeah, like onomatopoeia, LMNOP.
Onomatopoeia, LMNOP.
I used to think, I mean, we're talking like 5, 6 years old, young, but I used to think that when adults made arguments, they were saying, first, a ball. You know, kids don't belong in here. Second, a ball. You're not supposed to be in here with your shoes on. I thought they were saying first, a ball. Second, a ball. And
why would that be?
Well, I was so young. I was
Okay,
so
you were
young that
little.
I was trying to like sound like an adult. I mean, I didn't know. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about balls, but that's clearly how grown-ups say it. There's a first ball and a second ball when you're making an argument. I didn't understand what a ball was.
Interesting. I had a friend who thought, and it makes more sense than a ball, frankly, that the expression was rest ashore. Like, rest ashore, it's going to be fine. Rest ashore. Like rest on the shore. Yeah, like you've swum your race and now rest on the shore. It's going to be fine.
I like that better. Let's say that instead.
Yeah, let's just make that the real thing. Rest ashore.
Ashore.
And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, you're drowning, but rest ashore. It's all going to be okay. I get it.
You're not drowning now.
You're not drowning
on the
anymore.
shore.
Rest ashore.
Tina says she used to think animators would draw cartoons in real time really, really fast.
That one I never had. I'm hoping Tina was quite young when she
like a flip book. Did you have the flip books when you were little? I mean, they still have them.
The most amazing. I mean, when I figured out that that's how animation worked, which was through a flip book, and I have a kid who's interested in animation and would draw like a little stick figure man jumping in his own flip book, and it still just knocks me out. You draw a series of pictures and then you play them one after each other fast, and it's animation. It still knocks my socks off.
I'm amazed he completed his flip book. That's one of those rainy afternoon things. Like, I'm going to make a flip book that shows like a birthday party for, 14 dolls. And then you'd get like 8 drawings in and give it up. Because
I forget it. He was smart because he would just do a stick man doing like a backflip, and it's only like 35 drawings. And it's a stick figure.
That's a good one. Becca thought that when she was little, that cars with red lights were driving on their side of the road as they were driving, and cars with white lights had to drive on the other side of the road. That's how you knew which side to drive on. She's like, took me a little too long to figure out there were headlights and taillights.
I'm going to say, and this, someone will probably take my license away. Maybe I should be like, I know somebody who thought this. I was waiting for somebody to pull out of a spot, and the friend I was with said, well, they don't have their brake lights on. I did not realize there was a different set of lights if you were pressing on the brake until, I'm going to say, 3 years ago. Like, that you could know someone was getting out of a spot because they had there was the lights.
The lights are there. Yeah.
No idea. I did not know. I was like, shiny blinkies. That's all I see.
Wow. Well, I mean, that is amazing, but I will cop to something just as dumb. I lived in New York for about 3 or 4 years before I understood that if the taxi had the light on at the top, that meant that they were available for hire. And if they didn't have the light on, that meant there was already somebody inside. I would wave frantically and equally at each taxi that passed me, not understanding.
They're like, lady, get a clue.
Finally, somebody was like, I was on a date, and the guy was like, you know that you can tell the difference. Like, of course I do.
The guy is like, I'm not dating this dumb anymore.
I had no idea.
Get me out of it. Amber thought that when candidates were running for office, they were running a physical race. Picture them sprinting that. Maybe this is how we should do it. This might just solve a lot of our
Sprinting down the
problems.
street
It's
in
like who
suits.
can run faster. That's the only contest.
I mean, I'm not even sure in our current main thing who would win a running down the street.
Tough to call, but let's just try it. That's
so
the
we
winner. need
young, healthy candidates, right? If we
That's
could run
the
through
winner.
the street.
Nope, it's just a running race. Yes, my I babysat for a kid once who said that I was like, well, in the meantime, and he said, I don't like the meantime. What happens in the meantime? I'm like, no, just an expression.
First a ball, it's not really mean.
First of all, rest assured, it's not really a meantime.
When Shelby was young, she thought the same thing that everybody thought, I think, which was that all the songs on the radio were being performed live. And somebody else said that Billy Joel was actually driving very quickly from one radio station to another to perform.
Tough job for Billy Joel in the 80s. He was very popular. He had to really get around.
I have a friend who's Irish, and he recently referred to him as Billy Joel, and we laughed for 45 minutes.
Billy Joel.
He's like, that's what we called him. I'm like, what's not what we call him? And he's American.
No, it's
Billy
not what he
Joel.
calls himself, frankly.
Right,
let's
right.
Be honest.
Billy
It's
Joel.
not his name. It's not Joel.
Maggie said she thought that she could yell hello to her grandparents at the end of her driveway and they would hear her despite living 3 hours away.
I mean, some of this magical thinking, as we call it, the way that kids think is, I know we're not here to learn, Amy. I get that. But I do think it can be very useful for kids. That thing of let's shut the door. My daughter and we have TV shows that we watch together, and we often crawl up in my bed, and I have sliding doors on my closet, which, because I'm a chaos person, are always open. And she walks in and she's like, are we just going to let the monsters devour us whole while we sit here? We have to shut the closet doors. It's this little joke that we have. But it's true that who could sleep with their closet doors ajar? That's where the monsters live. You have to shut the closet doors to keep them in. And I think the idea of you could go down here and yell to grandma who lives 3 hours away, go down and yell good night. There's something magical and very fun about those kind of traditions within the family. Even turning on the bridge at night is that way.
And most of them are implanted by the grown-ups in their lives, right?
Yes.
To your closet example, I had 2 younger sisters. They were born when I was 11 and 12 years old. And so they would like to come in my room and touch my stuff while I was at school. I mean, what else is there to do?
Unacceptable.
And I had a doll collection. I had a shelf of dolls, Cabbage Patch stuff and other kinds of dolls too that were actually pretty nice. And I didn't really play with them. I just sort of had them. And even though I was now a young teenager, I still had these dolls and wanted them to be nice. And they'd touch them. So I told my sisters that there was a monster named Hortense that lived in my closet. And I would bring them in the room with me. And I would, go up to the door and be like, Hortense, are you in there? Do this voice. I'm going to see if I can still do the voice. I'm not sure I can.
Dig deep, actress Amy.
What do you want?
That was terrifying.
It's very bad for your voice to do. And I would do a performance of Hortense. I mean, it was just me talking into the closet with my back to my 2 very credulous young sisters. And I wouldn't be mean. I wasn't I'm going to eat children. I just was I'm busy today. I would be kind of Oscar the Grouch in my temperament. You know what I mean?
Now, were you doing this as a bit, or were you doing it to legit keep them out of the room?
I thought I was doing it as a bit, right? And it was, it
was actually
when we were all adults. They're
yes.
I almost couldn't walk in that part of the house because
so afraid of Hortense.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Hortense, you picked such a terrible name, such a terrifying name.
Hortense was the name
Hortense is the meanest name I can think of.
My
no
freshman.
If your name is Hortense.
Well, this is my freshman high school year. I had 2 classes, algebra and Latin, with Miss Hortense Shirtliff, who has gone to heaven now. She was a really, really nice woman. Well, she was an excellent teacher. And she broke no fools. You know what I mean?
Yes.
She was no nonsense. And so it was probably thinking of her that I picked the name of a monster that just wasn't going to let that stuff fly. You're not going to let my sisters in my room.
Good choice.
Yeah.
I would be scared. I'm still scared. Right now, I'm shutting my closet as we speak because I'm scared.
Because Hortense was coming.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back.
speaking of magical thinking, which I think sometimes is, yes, fully implanted by parents, and then sometimes kids come up with it. So this is an example of the one you come up with it on your own as a kid. Renee said, on long car rides, I used to look at the map to follow along on the roads and the mile markers we were passing. I truly thought that if I timed it just right, my little 5-year-old pointer finger tracing the map in the car would also appear on the side of the road somehow as a giant finger, like coming from space. And Renee says the
Nope,
fact
I'm not understanding it.
so
Explain
she's
it
going to
to me
like
again.
she's dragging her finger along the map while they're driving. And if she
Okay.
can figure out with her finger on the map exactly where the car is in space, if their car on the road is matching the exact dot where her finger is on the map
Then
she's
her
holding in her
finger
hand,
will come from space.
then she'll see a giant version of her finger also outside the window touching the point on the road that matches the point on the map. And she says, Renee, the fact that she never saw it was because she just never quite got the timing right. Right. No, because
Yes.
that would be weird and impossible to happen.
Yes, we talked. Amanda Montell, we just had on the podcast. She has a new book called The Age of Magical Overthinking, and it talks a lot about magical thinking and how it kind of rules and defines our lives in all of these interesting ways. But the ideas of magical thinking, I mean, as somebody who has some problems with OCD, I'm very wary of magical thinking because I tend to get very like, I can keep this airplane in the air if I never release these two fingers from the seat rest, you know? And although it sounds absurd when I say it out loud, and I understand on some
But look at your
level that
record.
I'm
Look at your track record. It's working so far.
that's the problem, Amy. Like, did we win? Did the Giants win the Super Bowl the years that I only ate the cupcakes that corresponded to the defense and offense? Yes, they did. Like, I might actually be doing it. That's the problem.
Right.
And so magical thinking, adorable and problematic, as it turns out.
Well, this also, it makes me think as we're sitting here, like these things that we came up with about the mile markers on the side of the road. A 5-year-old would not be doing that now because if you're 5, there's a DVD player and you're watching something on DVD. And if you're 8, you have your mom's phone and whatever. Like these things that we came up with were only out of like complete boredom or just that sort of absent thinking that you have while you're driving or in the shower or whatever. I feel like it's good for kids to have that space and time in their head, even if they come up with crazy stuff like Renee thinking her giant finger from space was going to appear on the side of the road.
Yeah, and I still think they have it. I mean, I think that there's a certain boredom that goes along with being in the car that even the DVD can't replace. And also, like, I know that I see my kids when we come up to red lights, they're like green. Like they're still doing the thing of like, I could change the light to green by saying green in this very slow voice and making this very magical gesture with my hand.
Somebody was saying that, I don't have it right here in front of me, but one of our listeners said that her mom had her thinking that you could concentrate and then blow, like blowing out a birthday candle, and you could make the lights change from red to green. And I thought, well, that's a mom having some fun. But in New York City, in a lot of big cities probably now, there's delayed changing of lights. It's gotten so long in New York City that like the traffic going north and south turns red, but the traffic going east and west, they're waiting for the light to turn green. And that delay now is sometimes like 6 seconds or something. And I think it just leads to like, it's that thing where you're a pedestrian and like,
am I going?
I'm just going to go.
Am I not going?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go. And that's when the light turns green, that these super delayed lights are very confusing that you can't tell. And I thought, yeah, we were children of a time where it was like 3, 2, 1, change. It was better. It was better.
3, 2, 1, change. Loved it. Living for it.
Olden days. Dahlia says that she thought that cashiers got to keep the money they put in their registers, so she figured that was the most obvious career choice for her future.
Dahlia, same. I was like, yeah, they make a lot of money. You know? Yeah, definitely.
Why wouldn't everybody be a cashier, right?
Yeah.
That would be the most lucrative job in the world. Sell expensive stuff and you'd make even more money.
Yeah, you just
work at the
people hand you
Lamborghini cash
cash
register
all day long.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
This is what I mean. Like back when you're in the store with your mom and she's writing a check or whatever and they're digging out cash, like now it's just beep, bop, boop, and money's invisible.
Yeah, everything is. I mean, I just was running out this morning to do a couple errands and I just ran out with my phone in my hand. Like if I get stopped, I'm not going to have a driver's license with me because I'm constantly like, I just need my phone. I'm going to grab something at the little convenience store. I got to get my broken nail fixed. Everybody just takes the phone paying.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in a mall. My husband dropped me off. I went in with the kids. We were looking for like a birthday present or something before we went. Of course, we were like buying the birthday present on the way to the party that was in the store. And I went running in and I was like, oh no, I left my wallet in the car. So then I'm calling my husband. You have to come in. And the lady at the register said, well, if you have a phone, you could just pay for it with your phone. And I was like, what is this wizardry? You're speaking of pay for something with my phone? And she's like, you just double click. And I was like, oh no, this is the end of it all.
Right.
This is the end of it all.
Right. But as long as you have your phone with you, you're good. It's your desert
pay for
island
anything.
object. Mary says that she thought when you moved, you were just trading houses with another family.
I mean, technically you probably are.
But they have to come to your house.
Oh yeah, you're right. I mean, you're all trading houses eventually.
There's a very
The human
large
race is mostly just trading houses.
Right. I mean, when you think about it, right, we're all just trading houses. That's like something you could put on a T-shirt.
We're all just trading houses.
We're all just walking each other home.
Until we die.
And trading houses.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. They don't have to go live in your house. That would be a funny system. But no, you are just moving into someone's house and they're moving into someone else's house who's just moving into someone else's house.
It would be it's kind of like a VRBO kind of thing, which you're supposed to say verbo, right? How old were you when you realized from the ads that they wanted us to say verbo instead of VRBO?
Never. I was never old. I don't even know that now. You're telling me new information.
If you go in the ads, they say
verbo.
It's verbo. And I'm like, what?
I'll call it what I want. Thank you very much.
It's airbanabib and verbo. Ooh, that's it.
Haley was utterly convinced as a kid that you couldn't drink and drive, as in drink anything, even water.
She's not the only person who said this one. Several people were like, oh yeah, me too. My brother. Yes.
Not allowed to drink while you drive.
Yeah. Or that sleeping with somebody being a, potentially life-changing choice for a young girl meant sleeping in the same room as somebody. I definitely thought that.
Yep.
See, we use these euphemisms with kids and they're just like, they're literal. That's a category. I'm going to make categories here. Like there's the magical thinking that kids have and then the magical thinking that their parents thrust upon them, right? But then there's also the like overly literal application of don't drink and drive.
Emily believed that her stuffed animals and dolls came alive and had whole entire lives when she left the room. She blames Raggedy Ann and Andy, the movie, a live action. When the kid was around, they were just dolls, and then cartoons when the kid left the dolls alone. They came to life. This, by the way, is an Oldilocks alert.
It's a very Oldilocks. Raggedy Ann and Andy themselves are an Oldilocks alert. There's got to be somebody that's saying, like, I don't know what they are. I mean, yeah, they were raggedy rag dolls.
Raggedy Ann and Andy were Oldilocks when we were kids.
Right,
they're
exactly.
like oldie-timey dolls.
They're really rag dolls. They're made of fabric and are really floppy. That was their thing, right? That's what they did. And they were they lovers or brother and sister?
Brother and sister. I cannot believe you just used the word lover. That's so upsetting.
I think they were just friends. I think they were related, but I think
they were brother and sister.
I think so.
Gross monster.
I don't know what the backstory was in them. I watched a little bit of this YouTube clip that Emily she helpfully dropped a link to this YouTube.
Was it helpful or was it
Fever Dream? Well, it was helpful to me because when it came on, I'm like, oh, totally. I remember this. It was like a late 70s. I remember my sisters watching it, so I think it stuck around. Where everybody else was watching part that was like a camel. That again, he was also the camel's whole song was about he was a draggy camel, and he was sort of like limply dragging his like.
We have to do a whole episode.
Limbs.
Well, maybe it's a subscriber episode where we walk people through the nightmarish entertainment that we were subjected to as children.
You're on. Yeah, like our favorite
It would
shows.
not fly today. Those Marty Krofft puppets.
Oh, yes.
That skull who read horror stories. What was his name? The Death Man? The Crypt Keeper.
Yes, the Crypt. Yeah. Yeah. All right. You're on. That's our next subscriber episode. And this is pretty much what our subscriber episodes are usually, even more
bunch
bonus
of nonsense
of us visiting the nonsense of our past. But this is just Toy Story. Like, I thought Toy Story had an original plot, but apparently it was stolen from the 1977
It was
movie
just
Raggedy Ann
stolen
and
from the
Andy.
minds of every child. Like,
Yeah,
I think every child believes that their toys have an inner life. I mean, that they're, yes, that's why Toy Story is so wonderful. And to me, like, also deeply disturbing. Like, somehow it's too much to bring that idea to life. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
too deep a cut.
Yes.
Like, I can't take it.
I've seen more than once somebody will set up as their kid is leaving for college, like walking down the sidewalk to leave to college, like a photograph of the kid walking down the sidewalk to the packed car for college, and then they'll set up the like Woody and Buzz like in the doorway, like
Cut it
waving
out,
goodbye.
people. It's too deep for me. I can't do it.
That's not
It's too
funny.
much. It's not funny.
You freak me out, guys.
It doesn't hurt so good. It just hurts. I don't want to see that.
Leslie believed firmly that the line on the bottom of her grandmother's pool that separated the deep end from the shallow end had an ability to open up. She says, my cousins and I believed that if you stepped on that line, the bottom of the pool would suddenly open and dozens of sharks would be released from the secret waters below.
She's totally right. I mean, what's the problem?
She did follow up by saying, I have never stepped on that line and I never will, adult or otherwise.
Yeah, we had a lot of lore about using the bathroom, that like things, alligators lived in the sewers, would come out and bite you on the butt. And like, it still gets me. I'm decades later, and every once in a while I still get a little creepy feeling.
See, that's what's wrong with social media, because I feel like stuff like that, those, old wives' tales are like, and the alligator's going to get you. Like, yeah, like there'd ever be an alligator in the toilet. And then you open Twitter and it's like, Florida man finds alligator in toilet. Like this stuff.
Yeah.
Like it
Everything
does actually
happens in
happen
Florida. Yeah.
once in a while in Florida.
I had a babysitter who told me when I was probably 7 or 8 that you get nightmares if you lay on your back. I am solidly in my middle age and do not sleep on my back because it gives you nightmares.
How is your nightmare ratio?
Whenever I have a nightmare, I think, oh, I must have been sleeping on my back, and I roll over. Like, it's crazy how I think I have a very suggestible mind. Like, if I join a cult, you'll be like, see, she was right. Very suggestible.
Megan says she thought the cast of the Mighty Ducks movie were, in fact, professional hockey players as well as actors. Does she mean the Disney movie with, like, the Bad News Bears kids playing professional hockey players?
She means the Mighty Ducks. Don't you know the movie The Mighty Ducks?
I thought the Mighty Ducks was like Bad News Bears, but hockey.
It is.
But it's kids, right? It's not adults. Or is it adults? Is it Cool Runnings and everybody's adults and they're terrible, but it's fun? Or is it Bad News Bears where they're kind of like 12 and they're terrible, but it's fun?
I mean, it's a deep cut. I think they're adults. Isn't Emilio Estevez one of the Mighty Ducks?
He's the coach.
He's the coach. Is the Mighty Ducks children or adult?
Margaret's pretending to think about it, and she's actually looking it up right now. So I'll tell you while I'm doing this. Have I told this story? I think I have along the way that I worked for the commissioner of the NHL for about
It's
6
about
months.
a youth league hockey team.
It's youth league. Okay, so Megan thought that these youths were actual professional NHL players at 12 as well as actors, which would really be something. They would really have had
They
they've done
busy
a lot of their
lives.
lives.
Yeah.
So far. All right, let's take a break. We'll be back with even more dumb things we thought when we were kids. Allison says she grew up thinking the parking lot to get into Toys R Us was confusing because that was what her mom told her when they drove past and did not stop at Toys R Us. And did not stop at Toys R Us because the parking lot was too confusing.
The parking lot was too confusing. This is that's the song the ice cream truck plays when they're out of ice cream.
Yes.
It's just straight up mom lies.
That's a free one, guys. Some parking lots are just too confusing to stop in.
Sorry. Tough break.
Nicole's dad, this is similar, these are related. Nicole's dad told her that they didn't get MTV on their TV because of the mountains that were nearby.
Hilarious.
She says,
Nicely done.
I was out of high school before I figured out this was a load of
Not actually
nonsense.
true. Yeah,
Shame.
a lot of this stuff is parents lying to us and us being too dumb to believe it and then figuring it out when we're like 40 years old.
Mhm.
My mom would refer to anybody she couldn't remember as Fanu Lanu. Do you know that expression?
That's definitely, I think that was a her special.
It was Fanu Lanu, but do you know what it stands for?
No.
At first name unknown, last name unknown. It's FNUNLU.
Oh.
First name
Fanu
unknown,
Nalu.
last name unknown. And so she would be like, oh, that's Fanu Lanu. That was her expression. And she said it all the time. And it's some sort of code speak. I mean, she didn't invent it, but it took me a long time to figure out what she was talking about.
Can I keep that one? That's what I'm going to take with me today.
Fanu Lanu. I mean, it's like, oh, she's like the Fanu Lanu from down the street. It's a very useful and funny Bronx lady expression, which my mother was a Bronx lady, and she's Fanu Lanu.
Maybe this section is going to shift into useful things that you can tell your kids. Emily says her mom had all of them convinced that if we sat on the hood of the car, we would put too much pressure on the engine, which could make it explode. She says, I believe this until college. She thinks her mother just didn't want her car to get scratched.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. She didn't want butt dents on her hood. That's why she said it. Meredith says her sister told her that if you took the cigarette lighter out of the car would blow up, and I 100% believed her. Now, a cigarette lighter is an oldie lights alert in a big way. They don't have them in cars anymore. But I would say I spent 10% of my youth in a car threatening my brothers and sisters, and they threatening me with a lit cigarette lighter. Like, we would push it in. So it was a little button, and you would push it in, and it would get glowingly red hot, and you would chase each other around the car trying to touch each other with it. Like, that was
never occurred to me to do that.
Oh, yeah. The other big game we like to play is we locked each other in suitcases and then rolled them down the staircase. Like, what the heck? How did we survive our childhood? I don't know.
Oh, my God.
But I mean, this was clearly before tort laws where you could like sue car manufacturers if kids had like circular burn rings all over their arms from putting the cigarette lighter.
I mean, that could fully, like, if you held that to the fabric seat, because also we're talking like the era of like fake leather or like weird fabric airplane
like polyester
seats.
That was made of,
I mean, wouldn't that like light up in 30 seconds? I can't believe.
To be clear, we did not burn each other with the cigarette lighter. It was just kind of a funny, like, we could if we wanted to. Like, I've got it. Whoa. Just demonic children.
Kids in the backseat with that, probably fine. They won't actually burn each other with that thing that would burn them if they touched it. They won't actually do it, though, as if like a bump in the road couldn't cause somebody to get tagged by the cigarette lighter.
Yeah, we couldn't do it when after our parents got in the car. It was like we would get in by ourselves.
Oh, I see.
Super fun game.
You were out there early. Katie says she thought the cream filling in Cadbury eggs was actual egg yolk, so she wouldn't eat it. I mean,
it's good choice.
Gross.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. Chelsea says her mother told her when she was little that if she fed her goldfish too much, they would explode. I mean, I think I still have internalized this as a thing. That
I believe that is fact.
Yes.
And that you'll drown if you go swimming within 30 minutes of eating any kind of food.
Minutes.
You will immediately cramp up and drown.
We
even
tried
in the pool.
We did an episode. I'm going to dig it out. I'm going to run it as a best of because it was a good one where we talked about the dubious science behind you have to wait half an hour to swim or 10,000 steps a day or whatever. Like, we couldn't. I dug and I couldn't even really get to like who said 30 minutes after you swim. Just some mom at the town pool said it once, and everybody else was like, "That's a good idea. I'm going to say that too."
Idea.
And it became
but
accepted as fact.
What I don't understand about it is it works against the mom. Like, it just means they have to sit next to you for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I what's the upside?
I don't know.
How does this scam work? Frankly, I don't understand it.
Getting them out of the pool long enough to actually eat something. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows? Melissa, I believe we might have even talked about this on that episode as well. If the interior lights are on in a car at night, it would make all the other cars crash. Like, I don't know exactly what I thought would happen if you turned a light on in the car, but it was like, of all the things that were forbidden in my childhood, turning on the interior light in the car at night, I guess it makes it harder. I guess it's not physics. What is it? It's the like.
I mean, I'm telling you guys, here's another free one. It works if you have a hard time with the super bright headlights these days that are like LED and white light, and they're way brighter than they used to be. Put the light on in your car. It immediately makes it easier to drive at night because the only light source isn't coming at you. It's also in your car. It's actually better for me.
Amy, I could never do this. What are you suggesting? I mean, next, just tell me to, fly to work in the morning, flapping my arms. It's not possible, Amy. I've been told that turning on the interior light is like the worst thing a human being can do.
And again, I don't know. This is just like the waiting half an hour thing, because I don't know how that was working for our parents. Like I think my parents firmly believe that when they told me that too, that they'd be like, "Oh, I'll lose control of the vehicle as soon as we turn the light on for more than 3 seconds." I think they also believe that.
No, but it is because in the oldie timies, the lights, the interior light was super bright. So if you turned it on at night, you couldn't see out the windshield as well. That was the logic behind it.
Yeah, I'm not sure
That
it was true even
It
then,
messed
but
up
that
the
was a
vision.
lot.
I think it was because like you would turn it on and you would see yourself in the windshield. They were that bright.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, now they're not as bright as the like operating room, like deep space floodlights coming at your eye from all these, tall SUVs. So give it a shot. I'm here to tell you, you won't crash the car in the first 5 seconds.
I don't
I'm here to
believe you.
put
I'll
that
never believe you.
lie
My
to
mommy told me
rest.
different, and I believe my mommy.
Anna believed/believes that chocolate milk came from brown cows.
Yeah, this is an oldie. This is an old one, and I feel like they put them on the box too. They made us believe this. They fed us this lie.
I just heard a story about a little kid who it was like a friend of a friend. The dad says to the kid, they're going on vacation, "What's your favorite part of going on vacation? What's it going to be, honey?" They're going to someplace they go every year. And this kid, like he's like 3 or 4, he says, "Meningitis." And the dad's like, "Sorry, what? What's your favorite part, sweetheart?" "Meningitis is going to be my favorite part. Meningitis." And the dad's like, I don't get that. So waits until the older sibling comes home from school and says, "Will you ask him, what is he saying?" Older sibling asks, "Meningitis is my favorite." And so they're trying to figure out what the kid means. Finally, the older sibling asks the kid, "What color is meningitis?" And the 3-year-old is like, "Well, it's brown and it's dark brown and it's white." And that's when the older sibling figured out that the favorite part of the vacation was Ben and Jerry's, because it was fish food ice cream, which is like chocolate ice cream with marshmallow fluff and then also like little chocolate fish. It's meningitis. It was going to be his favorite part of the vacation.
Meningitis. Love it. Well, there was nothing to solve today, but we did take a trip down memory lane.
No.
And remember what dummies we were when
Were
we were
we
kids.
dummies or what? We got all the answers for today from our Facebook group. We'll link to it in the show notes. Join the Facebook group. We talk about super silly stuff in there, but also super serious stuff. It's a lot of parents helping each other out, and it's the nicest place on the internet. We're so proud of it.
Yes. Awesome spot. Go to facebook.com/groups/whatfreshhellcast to join the conversation over there. And you will also be finding out in that spot about our very exciting news. Amy and I are going on tour.
That's right. We're going on tour this fall to Charlotte, Boston, Washington, D.C., New York City, and Philadelphia. Hopefully these are the first dates of more to come, and you can find out more about our tour dates, again, by going to our Facebook page or by going to whatfreshhellpodcast.com and click where it says tour dates at the top. Believe me, we'll be making sure you guys know about it.
Absolutely. You'll hear about nothing else in the fall, and we would love to see you. Come, what do they call those people who follow the Grateful Dead? Deadheads.
Groupies.
Come be a
Deadheads,
fresh
yeah.
head. You can follow us to every single date. Take the fall off. Tell your spouse now, not going to be available. I'm going on tour with Amy and Margaret.
It's going to be so fun.
Be really
can't
fun.
wait.
Be
can't
fun
wait.
for us. I think there's like 4 weeks between dates, so you could just live in my basement.
Well, that's
Also
true.
fun.
There's time to get a few
It's
things done at the
big
library or
commitment.
something.
Big commitment. And with that, thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
So long.